Hi, everyone. Welcome to this interview that I'm having with Dr. Stephen Terrell of Transforming Touch. Welcome, Dr. Terrell.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it.
Hey, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I can do that. I'm Stephen Terrell. I live in right outside of Austin. It's in the Austin, Texas metroplex. I guess if we're a metroplex, I'm in a town called Pflugerville. It's just a little spot in the road, but it's a good spot in the road. I am an adoptive father. I have two sons. I adopted when they were 1.5 and 2.5. They were both in foster care system. I have worked for years with foster care, child protective services, kids that have been removed from biological families. Then I have worked equal amount of time with adoptions, Eastern European adoptions out of Russia, Kazakhstan, out of China, Korea, most of South America. So I've had a lot of international adoptions that I've worked with. It kind of led me to this place of going, what's next? What's going to
Mm,
be the next for kiddos? Because the standard of practice used to be holding or restraining a child until we got enough fire in their system that they would break down and life would be easier. Which is a type of regulation, which is interesting, but it wasn't kind of regulation that I was comfortable with. It made me kind of crazy. I just every time I did it, the few times I did it, I hated it. I hated the way it felt. I hated the way the child behaved throughout it, and so I was a play therapist. I still am a play therapist, entree therapist, and somatic experiencing practitioner. Right on down the line, I started learning I'm desensitization and reprogramming, lots of trauma based. And through this, I started working with adults because I started getting adult adoptions at first. And I thought, well, I'm working with adoptions. I guess I'll expand my practice into adults. And then it expanded on into working with developmental trauma across the board and understanding developmental trauma and brought in touch. First started in SE training with some touch and started bringing that back, then further developed with some of Kathy Kane's work, brought her touch in, and it still wasn't enough. Developed transforming touch. Feel like it was a download from heaven. I mean, it has been amazing. And that's where I've landed. I still have an active practice that I still see clients every day, and I travel the world teaching. I have taught in Israel just recently. I just got back on Monday from Ireland, so lots of travel, going to India in a
Oh,
few weeks. So,
oh, wow.
yeah,
A new place on the map.
a new place on the map. And of course, I'll be back in Muncie and Borough Park in just a few weeks too. So, there are lots of training places on the
Okay,
schedule for 2025.
amazing. So, can you give a little bit of a just a historical background, timeline wise, of Transforming Touch? When did you develop it, and how long have you been practicing it and training people in it for?
It's kind of funny. That's a funny question in itself. And the reason it's funny is because I don't, transferring touch is always evolving.
Sure.
It's never stagnant in its own development. But probably, if I were going to put a timeline on it, probably 15 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago. By 10 years ago, it was really coming on board. I was using it almost exclusively. I've now done about somewhere between 35 and 45,000 sessions.
Wow.
So, I've done a lot of
35 to
transforming touch.
45,000. It's a big
Yeah,
number.
yeah, it's a pretty big number, but I see a lot of people. I see a lot of people fly in from all over the world to do intensives. So I see a lot of folk.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So I'll tell you where my interest is going with this. I've noticed a phenomenon in the Orthodox Jewish world where we tend to take trainings that are well established
Mhm,
from, big organizations,
mhm.
something that's gained a lot of hype. And so then all of a sudden we gain interest in that and we want to train, we see how well it works. And so then we want to train in that, we want to bring it to our community. There's something really interesting about Transforming Touch. You're a grassroots organization, you're small.
Very.
You don't have this huge name yet.
No.
And yet, when I attend the practitioner consultation calls and the review calls, there is a huge percentage of Jewish people on those calls,
Yes.
like disproportionate to what we would expect, considering
Totally.
how new Transforming Touch is and how unknown it is in the world in general. And so I'm very curious, from your perspective, what is it that has drawn the Jewish community to want to train in Transforming Touch, to want to bring it to the community? What you see the benefits are specifically with Transforming Touch for people who are Jewish and considering our very complex history. I'm curious about all that. So take it away.
Oh, well, there's nothing, that's not a real simple question, of course.
No, I
Uh,
don't ask simple questions.
of course not. This is like, oh my goodness. Let me think for a second. It's my, I knew nothing, let me say, about the Orthodox community. I had heard, you hear stuff, but I'm not big on hearing stuff and believing it always. So I had a training, a experiential group in Manhattan. This was years ago. And we were on the 11th floor of an apartment building. And we were in someone's home doing this uh, touch healing process. And one of the students was an Orthodox woman who came, Malky Rosenberg, who lives in Muncie. She was the one who came to that training. Someone had told her about it. I don't know who. Somehow she got there. It was on a Friday and a Saturday. Talk about two interesting days. I had no idea about, I live in Texas. The idea of Shabbat and I know more now than I've ever known about the Jewish community, but she came to the training, and on Saturday, she walked up the flights of stairs. And I
Hmm.
was like, what is this about? And I had always been real friendly, touchy. I would give people a hug or shake their hand. And she was like, no, no, no. And I'm like, well, what is this about? And then I had an actual transforming touch training in Lower Manhattan, and she came, and Esther Cohn came from Borough Park, and we did a Friday night candles. We lit candles. They did and did prayers. Of course, they nearly burned the building down. It was hilarious. The whole room was full of smoke. Flames were flying. It was hilarious, but I began to understand a little bit more. And then we went into Borough Park and did a training. And I was like coming home. It was like a very safe, very, uh, the women who were in the room, as well as the men, wanted to be there. They were interested. They were welcoming to me. Uh, I still didn't know what I was doing in the community. I didn't understand some of the customs of the community. Um, and people taught me. People taught me what words meant. People taught me what things meant. People have taught me, and showed me. And it's just like it really is coming home. I really love the community. I I jokingly said I would be Orthodox tomorrow if they would let me. Of course, they won't let me, but I would be because I really like the lifestyle. I like the enthusiasm. I like the idea that moms show up with interest in their children, they may not be coming for any other reason than a child. They may be, they're showing up for their partners, their husbands, their wives. They're showing up for their community. They're showing up in all different ways. And if somebody would have told me that this is where I would land, I would have said, no way. This is not
Mm.
even going to happen. This is not the direction I'm headed. And that's how my career started. I said I would never work with a child no matter what. And then my whole career has been children. So,
Wow.
it's like the community welcomes me and I respect the community. And I think that's part of what, I bring kindness and love every time. That's all I can bring.
And
And
respect. A lot of
total
respect.
lot of respect and understanding. Okay. And for during the trainings, I pretty well live a completely orthodox life. It's like, okay,
You
here I
even
am.
eat kugel.
Yes, every time Esther Cohn always makes me homemade, and it's so good. But yeah, that's that's it. And on Thursdays, you're right, it is disproportionate, and um, they line up just like everybody else. Their questions are just as important as everyone else's. And, we might have 85 people in that room to 100 people. I mean, it depends on what week and what time. We have a lot of folk come into that consultation. For one thing, it's free. It's my gift and Robin Sullivan's gift back to, the Transforming Touch community. But yeah, I know it's, I, I've looked at, I've done matchmaking. I've done
Really?
yeah, people send me pictures, so they'll say, "This is my son, and this is a girl we're considering for marriage. What do you think?" And so I've done a little matchmaking along the way. Um, yeah, it's like it's very safe.
Hmm.
It's very safe. I mean, in Borough Park, totally safe. Go there, walk the streets. I had to figure out, oh, you can't walk with someone. I walk pretty well by myself. But I've kind of figured out, when someone gets married, I can't think what it's called right now, but they go up and down the street with their bride. The
Hmm. I'm not from that community, so I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Well, it's pretty interesting because they walk all the way up and down 13th Street in Brooklyn. And I enjoy that. And I've got where I can figure out a little bit about the differences. And, Orthodox is a big word, and there's
Yeah.
lots of sects, six sects, and all of these different sects that come into the Orthodox community and understanding. And then going to Israel was a whole new experience that was unbelievable. As soon as I got there, there's all these people that you can tell there's a conflict going on because there's all these people carrying guns, and I don't think they're always there carrying guns. But I thought I was going to stay. I really thought this is where
Well,
I live the rest of my life is right here in Jerusalem.
well,
It was extremely welcoming, extremely safe. So why? Only thing I don't know. Maybe I inherited part of it. I have a great grandfather up line that was Jewish, not a grandmother, so it didn't come to me, but a grandfather that came this way. And my father was part of the getting people out of Auschwitz in Germany during
oh
World War
well.
II. He was part of the U.S. soldiers that went in. So I don't know if that influenced my system. I have no idea, but I am grateful every day for the community, every day.
And we are grateful for you and what you've brought to our community. I mean, it's a whole new level of healing that is unlike anything else that exists out there. Hard
Thank you.
to define for a lot of people. It's hard to explain exactly what it is, what this magical weird thing is that we do with our hands on the table that's not craniosacral and but it is somatic. So what is this thing? People don't totally get it, but the healing that it brings is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's kind of I always thinking about what do I need to do to make people understand, and I think about a river.
Mm,
And I think about a river, if it's running in its normal day, and there's nothing going on, it's pretty quiet. The rivers are pretty quiet. But if a river floods, it's up over the banks, it's destroying homes, it's destroying things. It can be pretty devastating on nature. And you think about trauma as a river, and with developmental trauma, it's like a lot of us, our river has overflowed and it's rushing through the streets, and it's playing havoc on our lives. It's making us work harder to be safe when you're trying to stay afloat. And I think that transforming touch, it's a regulation focused modality, which means you don't have to have any pathology. I don't have to say, oh, you're borderline personality disorder, or oh, you're oppositional defiant disorder, or oh, you're obsessive compulsive disorder. I don't need those titles. I don't need that pathology. I'm coming in and I'm going, let's build resilience. Let's increase safety. Let's do some primitive reflex work. Let's looking into and touching into the nonverbal, that
mhm,
part of development that is pretty much nonverbal, where there may have been unavailable caretaker. There could be history, epigenetics coming down. I mean, the Orthodox community, I don't think I've met very many people who didn't have a history of trauma upline.
cool. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure, go ahead.
So, the way that I see it is all the Jews that are alive today, the vast majority of them, 90 something percent, are either from descendants of Holocaust survivors or they were living in like Arab countries and were kicked out of those countries in recent years, or they were living in America during the Great Depression. Right? So there's almost like no Jew that didn't, at least in the last 100 years or so, didn't have some really traumatic history. And then, not to mention the individual history that every family has. And when we look at also, the 2000 years since our temple was destroyed, the 2000 years of persecution that we've been experiencing, and how all that impacts the developing nervous system. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, oh my, yes. When I was in Jerusalem, I went and saw where the temple was and prayed at the wall. And oh my goodness, so powerful. But when I look at the historically, and I'm looking at Jewish history, and I go back and I think about the Holocaust, the effects of the Holocaust, all the people who died, and all the people who watched people die
Hmm.
during the Holocaust, uh, all of the overcoupling, meaning the events that happened during Holocaust, like the smell of dust and death, like dogs
Hmm.
and death, the things that got tied in together in the Holocaust affected Jews genetically. It didn't just affect their lives and their future lives, and their children's lives, and their grandchildren's lives, and their great children. It affected genetically all the way through, going on forward to where we don't know where. And when we look at the Depression in the US, Jews weren't treated very well. Right here in this country, we still have horrible issues, of racism and anti-Semitic Semitism showing up on a daily basis. So we have that threat and that happening. And then we jump over to Arab countries. There aren't even words to explain. Russia, all the Jews that were killed, all of the poverty camps where people were pushed into. Uh, no words. And to imagine, anyone could imagine that those would be single incident. They're not.
Right.
It's a collaboration of all that comes into the funnel. And if you imagine a funnel, it all hasn't come through yet. It's still trying to get through the funnel. It's so much negative emotion impact. And negative
Mhm.
emotion impact directly affects genetic development. If I don't have enough to survive, our bodies begin to function on what they have. And so they eliminate strong genes, they eliminate cellular structures, they eliminate immunities, they eliminate relationship. All these things begin to get eliminated or reduced. And so it would be impossible to imagine this. You could meet someone in the Jewish communities who had not been affected by one of those, if not all of them. And some have been infected by every one of them. They didn't miss any. I mean, they got
Yeah.
all of them. And so you can't walk away from it and say, this is it. And you can't, and what's is to recreate therapeutically, what we're trying to do is we create these safe havens, these places in our offices where our nervous systems can just show up just like they are. No mask on, no pretending to be different than, what's really coming about on our tables. And understanding that, yeah, this is a very regulated approach because it's a strong protocol that has directions and you move through, but it's also not a protocol that takes 4 doctorates to learn. I mean, it's a pretty easy protocol when you start realizing that healing is all about acceptance when we're accepting what's going on, and resistance when we're resisting. And at any given moment, we don't know which is which.
Mm.
We don't know. But being able to hold that space and be with it is the important part.
You're reminding me of when I attended the Brooklyn training in the summer. I was repeating module 2. And I don't know if you remember what you said this to me, but you said, your body is like dead. It's just a dead body on the table. And I was so surprised. I didn't know what to do with that piece of information. And I went up to you after the end of that day and I said, what should I do with this? What am I supposed to do with the fact that this is how my body is responding right now? And you paused and you said, this is what it is, and it's gonna come in handy one day. Said something along those lines. And a few months later, I live in northern Israel. And so when the war broke out up here, and I remember we had our first siren, and I was like, that's it. I'm just hunkering down in our bomb shelter. I can't deal with this. And I literally laid down on the bed, and for like a day, I barely got out of bed. I was just so overwhelmed with the building shaking. It was a lot. It was a lot for my system. And your words just echoed in my head and said, this is coming in handy. This is here to protect you. And you're doing it again and you're playing dead. And it's okay. Like, this is what your system needs right now. And that level of acceptance of just being able to kind of have this perspective of why I was just, playing dead, that it's my system trying to protect me and trying to keep me safe, allowed me to come out of it without judgment and with so much more acceptance and ease, where I was able to kind of like turn it into a joke. Like every so often I'd be like, I need to go play dead again. This is what my system needs. And I would go hunker back down in the bomb shelter for, a couple of hours and just space out and do nothing. And when I was ready, I would come back out, okay, I can face the world again. I can face my life. And that level of acceptance of, yeah, you saw my body on the table, like acting as it would in a situation where this is what was accessible.
Yes,
And that's where the healing comes from.
eh, without a doubt, without a doubt. And healing in itself, so many people uh, get this idea that you're going to heal. And through this healing, here you are, a woman living in northern Israel, and you're going to have a healing, and the next thing you're going to become a rock star.
Yeah.
Yeah, it isn't.
Totally.
That's not how it works. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately, unless you want to be a rock star. Healing is about understanding that everything we have been born with, everything we have experienced is right here in this moment, right
Mm,
in this moment. And healing is about being able to live with it. However it shows up. If it shows up me needing to play dead, then by all means let me play dead. If that's how I stay safe. If it means, I don't like crowds. You're not going to catch me at a mall. I'm not going shopping with 1,000 million people bumping into each other. Doesn't make me feel safe. Maybe it's safer for me to order online. Who knows? But it's understanding that, oh, I'm learning how to live with who I am. And if I can live with who I am, what about my partner, my husband, my wife, my children? What about living with them? Oh, and what about my mother-in-law, my father-in-law,
mm.
my mother and my father, all of a sudden,
Getting more intense in here.
it's the heat going up a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about learning how to be with all those people
Mm,
where you don't get overwhelmed because most of us live overwhelmed our whole life. I did, without a doubt. That's probably part of the reason I like the community so well is that I identify. I have my own neurodivergence. I understand this, being autistic. I understand those parts better from knowing people who have suffered. And it's
mm,
it's it's interesting because some people, I will say, have told me that, oh, we're supposed to suffer. We're
mm.
supposed to suffer. And I'm like, maybe you're supposed to just know that you were suffering. Maybe you don't have to always suffer. And there's a part of healing that's suffering. I mean, yeah, when we start to get a little bit better, all that stuff that's been sitting there waiting to come in, there it is. It's arrived. It's now on the scene.
Yeah. On the table. Shown
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Pain, sickness, angry. We didn't just become frozen. If we think about fight, flight, and freeze, we fight if we can fight. If we can't fight, we run. And if we can't run, we freeze. And in that freeze state, some of us have lived our whole lives, our entire lives, from the moment of conception on. We have been in a state of freeze. We go to school, we have relationships, we have kids, yet we're still frozen. It's amazing. We have very resilient, by design, God did a really good job when he designed us because we really hold up to wear and tear pretty well.
And yet at the same time, we hold up to it, but all of this affects us and affects our functioning, our abilities to be in the world. And so how do we kind of bridge the gap between, people come because they want healing. They
Mhm.
want to feel like they can get out of those states that they're stuck in, that they've been stuck in maybe since conception.
Yeah,
They want to see that things are going to shift.
yeah,
And there's a desperation nowadays
yeah,
to heal as fast as possible. Maybe it was always there, I don't know, but definitely nowadays I see it. I know it myself. There's, moments in my life where I've been desperate for healing, and I see it in my clients. I see it in my colleagues. I see it, the questions that come up about like, okay, but how long is this going to take? And where am I going to get to? And is healing even possible?
as long as there's a God.
Hmm.
healing is always possible. Without God, I'm not sure. I get kind of lost after that, so I have to look at that and I have to say, oh my, if I can come once a week and I can feel better, why can't I come 7 days a week?
Right.
I want to come 2 or 3 times a day, 7 days a week. And I'm like,
Let me just
no,
move in.
yes. Yeah, I've had that question. I've had that question, and it's being able to back up and go, wait a minute, that's not what you want.
Hmm.
You don't want that because all that does is a lot of band-aids because we know that physiologically or biophysiologically, it takes our systems time to titrate and integrate, that it isn't going to just happen overnight. Like it doesn't go poof and it's integrated. Less is more, less is more, less is more. So
Hmm.
sometimes I'll see someone twice a week, but usually you're on the right track when they have some suffering. You
Hmm.
know, there's a woman in the Orthodox community who I've seen for a while now, an older lady, and we work online together, and she gets so frustrated with the word suffering. For months, every time I said there's suffering, she would go, I don't want to suffer. I don't want to suffer. I don't like
Right.
that word. And
Yeah. I mean,
now
who likes pain?
nobody,
Right.
nobody, but you are going to have it.
Yeah.
I don't, I think that, and what we're looking for, the first step in healing is self-regulation, to be able to manage myself. When I'm in a situation that's uncomfortable, can I calm myself down?
Hmm.
Not somebody else, not my partner, not going and asking them to help me, but am I able to go, okay, this is a really stressful moment. Can I maintain myself or do I need to leave, which is also self-regulation? What do I need to do before I do something impulsive or before I do something erratic and I start my old pattern, was to scream and to yell, how dare you do this to me? Oh, and you go down that barking path.
I have no
What if
idea what you're talking about.
never? Of course not.
Never. Nope.
No, no one I know
Yeah.
anyway, no one I've ever worked with has ever had that issue, but I have it. Yeah, yeah, it's so amazing. And I can tell when I'm stressed, when I've
Hmm.
done too much. Was recently at a family event that, was several days in a row, lots of family crammed into one little place together, you know, and everybody on top of each other and eating every meal together and everything. And then all of a sudden going, I can't do this another second. I feel
Reached
it
your
come.
limit.
Yeah, here comes the old me coming out. First, a little sarcastic, and then "Rawr, I'm coming at you. I'm
Hmm.
going to tell you, and I'm going to get angry. And it was time to go home. It was time to leave. Not easy. Not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having that self-awareness to be
Yeah.
able to know what you need for self-regulation, to be able to say, okay, this is what I need in order to allow my system to come back to
Yeah.
homeostasis.
Yeah. And homeostasis, what a thing you just brought up with that word. 'Cause that is homeostasis is our wonderful bodies say, this is optimal health. This set point in homeostasis is where optimal health is. Well, what's messed up about that is that optimal health is based on how dysregulated we are at that moment in time. It's not based on kumbaya, come by here, God, kind of give us this peace. Not based on that at all. It's based on the worst day of our lives. And so it brings those together and it goes, okay, this is where we need to be. So I'm operating is a lot of cost of doing business. There's a lot of cost to living in homeostasis. And
Hmm.
healing, when things are more regulated and things are more manageable, homeostasis has to change. Guess what doesn't
Hmm.
want to change? Homeostasis. So it's always wanting to pull you back to that place of the worst day ever. And it wants you to live in that day. But that's not where we want to live. We want to live over here. We want to move to this place where, oh, maybe I'll have an extra year of life. Maybe I won't have autoimmune. Maybe my diabetes will be more regulated. Maybe my risk of cancer is reduced. All of those things change when our health, our emotional health, our regulated health moves. All of those things are there for us, every one of them.
And somehow this moves through the co-regulation of transforming touch. Somehow that helps shift the dial a little bit, the notch.
Well, co-regulation in itself is an interesting word
Mm.
because that's probably the mystery. That would probably be stage two of healing. If there's a stage two, would be co-regulation, auto-regulation be first, and then self-regulation is probably second, and I guess we'll put co-regulation third, if we were going to say regulation-wise. If I'm looking at co-regulation, I thought for years, I thought, oh, I can co-regulate with you. Let's co-regulate right now together. And it took me a long time to figure out that, oh yeah, that's not co-regulation. Co-regulation is when a system finds other systems that are similarly regulated and they begin to regulate together. But they
Mm.
don't know who they are. You don't know who they are. And hopefully it's somebody you're in relationship with, but we really don't know that either. So coming back around, we're going to be looking at this and going, okay, this co-regulation, the work involves me being able to be in my presence, which means I have to shift down and be with me. That's what the work involves. For me to be able to do the work with another human, I have to be able to be in me as the practitioner. And I'm waiting for you. I'm not chasing you. I'm not intruding on you. I'm not doing any of those things. I'm over here. I'm over here and I'm sitting and I'm waiting. Right brain to right brain, going back to the earliest of connection, understanding that about second trimester on, it's all right brain development. Up until around 2.5 or 3 years of age, we're all right brain. There is no left brain. And then it comes on, and our left brain is the logical part of us, the more reasonable part. But that right brain, we have to heal in the right brain. The rupture happened to the right brain. So I have to sit, I wait. So co-regulation, it'll come when it comes. Got to first get auto-regulation by changing homeostasis, the set point. Self-regulation by having more resilience to be able to find myself and to be able to take care of me first. And then co-regulation will be the gift that shows up when you
Mm.
least expect it. And it starts, all of a sudden you're at a wedding and there's, there's several hundred people at a wedding in the community. You go to one of those weddings and there's people singing and dancing and there's all this happening and there's lots of stuff going on. And all of a sudden you're like, the world is okay. The world is safe.
Mm.
That's regulation. That's regulation. And when you have more space, you're able to experience the world differently. You don't just, whatever decisions you've been trying to make are no longer decisions. They're just everyday life. They flow out of you. If I have more space, I can make a better choice
It's easier to make choices.
all the
Easier to
time.
feel like I have the ability to make choices, the autonomy to make choices.
Yeah. Even if that choice means I'm going to stay in bed all day and cover up my head and just cuddle with my pillow. even if
Hmm.
that's my choice, that's a good choice.
Yeah. There are times when that's what's called for.
Yeah, yeah. We all need that day.
Mhm.
I recommend, people say, what do I do between sessions? What's going to help me between sessions? What's going to help you is being with you, going out and walking on damp grass in the morning, if there's grass, wet grass to walk on, or being able to just go to the wall in Jerusalem and just sit.
Mhm.
No, no expectations, nothing on board, just really finding your way out into nature, going to the Dead Sea, rub some mud on you, do something just for you. And life, some people it's just a pot of tea, by the way. It's nothing, they don't do anything huge.
Yeah.
Pot of
Be
tea.
something simple, something
Something,
easily accessible in one's kitchen without
yeah,
having to go anywhere, even leave the four walls of your house.
exactly. That old keep it simple. Keep it simple as you can keep it, and life keeps unfolding in a simple world. And that's what we want. The more simple it can be, the easier it will be to manage. And we'll get better and better and less stressed. You know, Flying to Jerusalem, I thought I was going to have to fly around the world twice. And maybe I did to get there. And,
Oh,
it wasn't an easy flight to get there, but once you get there, it's worth it. And
mm,
that's how healing is. It's not easy. It's not for the weak at heart. I mean,
yeah.
it takes strength to heal.
So what do you, so coming to Jerusalem is something, okay, you book your ticket, you make the effort, not always easy, but you make it, you come, great. You decide to stay, you decide to leave. Okay. But how does, excuse me, how does a person know when they've had enough of transforming touch, when they've graduated, when they no longer need it? Is there such a thing?
Yeah. Yeah. One is people will say to you or say to me, once I get self-regulation on board,
Hmm.
they're able to manage themselves. A lot of probably 50%, 60% will leave at that moment. Like, oh, well, life has gotten better. I'm not having all of the issues. I can move forward now. So those folks begin, and then some will stick around for co-regulation and they just stay.
Hmm.
The people who are doing co-regulation, they get something out of it every week, but they also have a relationship that they may not have ever had in their life. So they're
Yeah.
kind of now bouncing other relationships off of the relationship they have with you as a practitioner. And so they're not in a big hurry to leave. They'll hang around. And sometimes there's that group of people that we push out,
Hmm.
like mother birds in the nest. We push you out of the nest. Go out there and do the best you can because I'm done. And understanding that, oh, that's an important moment of, I'm done, you're done, it's time to go.
I'm
And
done, meaning I, meaning you as the practitioner.
yeah,
What does that mean to be done with a client?
well,
Like what? It
it's not,
sounds a little like I've had enough of you almost.
it is
Okay.
because you're also participating in the session. See,
Yeah, of course.
I think that we benefit from every session we do as a practitioner, but there are people that we have to push out. We
Mm.
have to push them out because they've done all the work they're going to do with you.
Ah, okay.
And you become aware of that. And you're like, yeah, we're spinning wheels here in the mud. They're not moving any further. I'm not helping them anymore. I need to push them out. Let's go. And with kiddos, I only see kiddos. I'll see kids early on and then only at milestones, like when they hit puberty or mid-teens. Those times, that's all. I don't want to see them forever. Move them on through, get some regulation on board and move them on and have them come back. And I think that's what therapy is. But I don't think therapy is always constant.
Mhm.
Sometimes we need to get where we get to, get out there, experience the way it's different, and then come back in again. But it's going to feel different.
Right, in a different place, meaning the person's had a chance to practice the self-regulation and see where they're getting stuck, see where self-regulation works, where it isn't working, and then be able to come back to bring some more auto-regulation on board.
Yeah, you got it. And sometimes we just need a little boost. We
Mhm.
don't need a lifetime of therapy. Just a little boost is where we want to go.
Okay. So now let's see, can we take it to some of the recent events in the Jewish community? So definitely those of us here in Israel are feeling it more, but definitely lots of Jews in outside of Israel are also feeling it. With the effects of October 7th, all the events that happened and the ongoing events, and now, as we're speaking, 3 hostages are being released, and there's still so many more, and the anti-Semitism, coming back, there's just been this resurgence of anti-Semitism recently, as you mentioned. Also, how can we use something like transforming touch within the community to help each other heal from this communal pain that we've been going through?
Well, we're all watching, not all. I know I am. I've been watching all morning. I've got my alerts on right now, and I just looked down just a few minutes ago to see if they'd crossed the border yet. The three women that are coming out first. So October the 7th and September the 11th, those dates are never going to be forgotten. Hopefully, we'll never forget them. The way that transforming touch helps is we don't heal alone. We're in community. And so as I get easier and life gets easier on me as who I am, then those next to me begin to get easier because it's like it expands. Whatever's available in that jar expands. And so it gets more space. So in the community at large is always tolerance is one of those things that grows when we're less stressed, when we're carrying around less weight. So there's more tolerance for um, being able to wait to see what happens this morning. And, it's still morning time here in Texas, and they should be coming across that border anytime now. Well, I don't know why they haven't crossed yet. Maybe they have, and it just hasn't flashed yet, waiting for those moments. And also, there's a part to be able to hold that part that maybe they're not going to cross.
Yeah,
Maybe this isn't going to happen at all. And I think
right.
that's where we go to is so many disappointments.
Hmm.
And I think transforming touch takes those disappointments and says, yeah, there's the disappointments of the past. And now let me look at the possibilities of joy. And when those three come across the border, it's going to be pure joy, absolute joy that they're back in Israel, that they've come across that border, that they've gone into the hospital, that, they're going to be checked from top of their heads to their bottom. And then the work begins with them. The trauma they
Yeah.
experienced, the whole of Israel, all the Jewish community has experienced. It hasn't been a single incident. So everyone involved with the community is going to be traumatized as they come across, why they're bringing them three at a time. I'm like, pick up speed, folk. Let's just load the bus. There's no
Yeah.
need, but it's all negotiate. You send me it's like, I don't know, like a game. I'll send you one, you send me one. I'll send you one, you send me one. Get them home. And transforming touch brings about relief,
Hmm.
relief,
Relief.
because we're able to truly thank God.
Hmm. Say more about that.
Well, we have a tendency to say thank God, thank God, thank God all the time.
Just by
We
rote.
Yes, it's just
Hmm.
work.
Right.
But what happens when you really thank God? When you're breathing in the gratitude, and you're able to experience it on a higher spiritual level of thank God. And spiritual bypass is how people get around trauma. They
Mm,
use God and it will bypass dealing with their own feelings and emotions, but that ability to say thank God and really mean thank God and feel it in your body all the way to your toes. To feel it, I mean, it's going to be huge when they cross that border. So any moment. And I think that's what transforming touch does. It not only increases our time on earth, it also increases our relationship with God, makes it stronger. It isn't just because we're taught to say thank God, it's because we really mean thank God, even if
so,
it is all lowercase words, you know,
mm,
if we're still there saying thank God. But it becomes from the heart instead of the brain.
mhm. So the relief brings that ability to connect more to our hearts and really be able to connect to God more and thank Him for
Yeah.
the small and big things in life.
Yeah. We might even discover that our children aren't so bad.
Mm,
We might discover our partners aren't so bad. You know,
mm.
we might be able to live with a cranky person, you know.
Wow.
All of those possibilities are there when you expand your resilience and your window of tolerance. It's all there.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Any
Well,
final words you want to say to our listeners before we say goodbye?
maybe I wish at this moment I had something wonderful and amazing to say, a bumper sticker moment. And I don't. I think that my heart is with everyone today. I'm waiting to see what happens, just like everyone else is. And grateful for God at this moment that that I'm able to think about somebody other than myself.
Hmm.
I can think about a whole population of people that are very important to me. I can think about community. I will be on alert all day, waiting to see who crosses the border when. And I wish Israel love and lots of joy today, hoping that more joy tomorrow, more joy through the night. And I
Amen.
look forward to being back in Israel.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And, that's what you shared just now is not a bumper sticker, but it's a bumper sticker. It's real. It's genuine. And that, we have a phrase in Hebrew. I'll say it in Hebrew and I'll translate. Dvarim hayotzim min halev nichnasim al halev. Words that come out from our heart come into the next person's heart.
Mm,
And so that's what your words did. You spoke from your heart, you shared, and I'm touched by what you shared, and I imagine that everyone listening will also be able to sense that sensitivity that you have and the care and the concern that you have. And so thank you. And may you have many more years of helping people come back to themselves.
I hope so. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Take care.
You too.